Amy with Flower Moxie, and I have Abigail here, and we're going to talk about how prepping is so important. I know I already have a video about this, but I want to go into more detail because prep is the most important thing. If you bungle up the prepping process, then it's going to really impact the health and the shape of your flowers and make the design process so much harder. So the first point that I want to make is to have very clean containers. Secondly, you want the right size. So you need to forget about the Lowe's buckets, the Home Depot buckets, and go for something that's a little bit more short because that will fit your flowers better. These are actually Walmart bathroom trash cans, which I highly recommend. They're about $1 or $1.50 a piece. I've got a 2.5 gallon and probably like a 1.5 gallon. And then also you want some smaller vases for your delicate flowers like ranunculus, anemones, veronica, anything that's kind of specialties, you know, delicate, sensitive. They need their own container. So I have like a mason jar and just kind of like a extra, you know, vase that I don't want to use for my centerpieces. The biggest mistakes that I see brides make when it comes to the prep is overcrowding. So brides will send me a photo of, you know, 75 roses jammed into one bucket, and they ask, you know, why aren't my roses opening? So things need some breathing room. Let's see, the next mistake is not the right height of container, and there's like too much angle on the flower and gravity, you know, takes hold. So what I mean by that is, for instance, these ranunculus, very delicate and sensitive, and if I were to put them in a mason jar and they were to hang in a day, they're going to really have an angle and curve on them and look droopy. So we want to make sure that they're in the right height so they're well supported. Same thing for snapdragons. Brides will send me a picture and say, why are my snapdragons curved? But they'll have it in a bucket and it's hanging at a 45-degree angle, and these guys naturally love to curve anyways. And let's see, the last thing is not separating out fancy flowers. So when you have more delicate flowers like these soft ranunculus, you don't want to jam them into a bucket with greenery. So I actually get pictures sent to me and they're like, my ranunculus looks smashed, and it's because they're smashed in with the greenery. So unless you do it every weekend, how would you know? So that's why we're making this video. We have flowers for this weekend's wedding, and Abigail's going to take us through why we prepped how we did.
Okay, so the greenery doesn't need as much breathing room, so we can put 2 or 3 bunches into one bucket, but you still want to make sure that you cut the end so it can drink plenty of water. And then we also use the greenery to help support our snapdragons, so that can be very helpful to make sure that those don't lean over. And then we have some fun texture that didn't quite need a whole bucket, and then we had some smaller roses here, and we wanted to put these in a shorter bucket because you can see that if we were to put them in this taller bucket, and they're just going to lean and their heads are going to hit right at the top, and then that's just going to damage the petals and keep them from opening. And that's pretty common with spray roses too. And so here are ranunculus. We have we got a taller vessel for these because they do have pretty long stems. But of course, if we didn't have quite such a tall bucket, we could cut these and put them to the length of this vase. And then you want to make sure that you do the same thing with anemones or anything that might have a longer stem but it's more delicate. And then our carnations here, you can put about 2 bunches of carnations into one bucket because they don't need quite as much breathing room. They have just plastic covering them whenever they're shipped, so they don't need quite as much room to open up. But as you can see, we have one that's not quite as open, and so you can use your hands to just kind of smash it down a little bit and open it up, and that's not going to damage the petals like it would with a rose.
Very hardy.
And so for our roses, we do want to put just 1 bunch in a bucket. You don't want to overcrowd them, otherwise they won't open. And these ones actually open up pretty well, so we don't need to do too much with these, but in case we get one that isn't too open, you can always just blow on them, or use a hair dryer with the cool setting on, and that's going to help open up the petals. Or just cut them, give them an extra cut pretty deep, and then put them in some warm water. Or if you want to get really fancy,
I like getting fancy.
You can reflex the rose, and that just means you kind of bent the petals back to help them open and just kind of give a more high-end look to your arrangements.
And sometimes, like, she makes a good point, like sometimes like these blueberry roses we got yesterday, and blueberries naturally typically don't blow out really largely, but this time they did, and our quicksands, which we don't have here, typically open up really well, and they didn't this time. So, you know, it just really depends week to week what we get, and so we just, you know, have little tricks, and like Abby explained, blowing into them will push those petals open and make them larger, but really we just kind of have to take what Mother Nature gives us on the weekly and work with it, and just know you know, can't mess up beautiful flowers. So anyways, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.